Hey everybody, my name is Brad. I like to help people start or scale medical practices. And today, on today's podcast, a little different because one, I'm snowed in. Two, YouTube doesn't love it that I publish on Spotify and push to YouTube. So now I'm going to just try to publish all my podcasts right here on YouTube with me just ranting into the camera now with my mic right next to me. All right, today's topic. If I was starting a clinic from scratch, what are the 4 channels or the types of channels that I would just ignore if I were starting my practice from scratch? And some of these I still ignore today for my practice. And why? Now, of course, like any general advice, this is very general. If you have a super defined niche that you're going after, this might not work well for you. For example, if you're really interested in postmenopausal HRT and you're doing like bioidentical pellets, that's like your entire clinic. Yeah, maybe this advice is not completely directed at you. However, general, this I think can apply to probably 95% of physicians and or practices. So let's get right into it. All right, the very first one is trying to go after organic social media. I don't necessarily go after this right now. I'm not doing a bunch of TikTok, Instagram, ads for my practice because a lot of you guys, even if you did go viral in the past, or like one of my good friends, he has a pretty large following on Twitter. He does a weight loss clinic, right? There's all men's TRT and weight loss online. Even though he has 400,000 followers on Twitter, even though he's got that, and he's constantly ranting about, everything weight loss related and all this other stuff. Yeah, like your weight loss, none of those are converting to actual patients. A lot of those people are following you, getting the free knowledge, but they're not converting to real patients. A lot of these people are low intent. They're scrolling through while they're putting their kid to bed. Maybe they're even in the restroom on their phone. Who knows, right? But they're scrolling through and they're hearing about HRT or weight loss. Most of those people, even if it's funny, it may go viral, but a lot of those people are not going to convert. And if there's anything I learned, creating, Investing Doc takes a lot of time to produce good quality content. You got to put a lot of work into it. A lot of these social media influencers, not necessarily backing them up, but it's a part-time, if not a full-time gig to like put out content on the regular. Most of these people that are pumping out content like every single day, 3 times a day, they have a team behind them. They're paying thousands of dollars a month to get this out there. How do I know this? Because a lot of them that I've tried to sign up for, of like, okay, this person's like killing it in social media. Maybe I could consult with them. Minimum, they want $5,000 a month. Ideally, $10,000 a month to grow your social media following. Yeah, you got to spend a lot of money because it's very low intent. I'd personally spend that time on something else. Exceptions to this, like I talked about. If you want to become like the pain with intercourse for females, like expert, and you're doing all these like treatments and modalities that like only you know how to do. Yeah, that's the exception to the rule. Maybe you're an IVF doc and there's some new way to like, ramp up the hormone productions and like harvest eggs. I don't know if that's true. If you're an IVF doc or fertility doc, I'm probably brutalizing it there, but you get the idea. If there's some super specialty that you have interest in, yes, then you could become the brand and guru in that section. For me, primary care, what am I going to say? I'll provide, your Mounjaro better than anyone else can do it in the future. I can provide a lot of things for my primary care that we offer same day, next day appointment. It's all low intent. Those people are not going to convert, and spending hours on creating content to pump out every, day. It's not the way I want to build my first 1,000 patients. Am I saying it's a total waste of time? Hell no. You got to build your brand. If it's easy for you, do it. If it's natural to you, do it. Lean into it. But I think if you're just very general, if you're a general surgeon, and you just want to do hernia repairs, you can throw some content out there if it's very easy for you. But I think focusing on Google Ads and other page structures on my other podcast, How to Get Your First 1,000 Patients, I personally think that's a little bit better use of your time than focusing on spending hours a week learning how to do content creation. Okay, the next one is EDDM, also known as direct mailers. I'm sure you've opened up your mailbox and you're like, do you need a new roof? Scan this QR code to get a new roof. How many times are you searching for a new roof? Once every 20 years? The conversion rate on those are low. It is nice for hyper-specific areas, brand awareness. If you're opening a new dermatology in town and there's a huge retirement community next door, hell yeah. This might be amazing to do. However, in terms of like, is it one that I would lean into for the first 1,000 patients? No, it is and can get quite expensive. And unless you know your market, I open a dermatology and I'm a Mohs surgeon and I know that there's a huge retirement community right here. then I think you're just kind of spinning your wheels. I think those advertising dollars and times on creating that EDDM, the direct mailer, I think it'd be better in Google Ads, meeting new consultants, building those relationships. Again, this I don't want to say is bad. This list of 4 is not bad, but it's prioritizing. Is this going to help you get your first 1,000 patients? I think this will help you get your first 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 patients, but not your first 1,000. The other part with kind of advertising is, there's that typical advertising mantra of like, oh, you gotta get in front of them like 7 or 9 different times or 12. There's all these numbers that are basically made up. The short of it is you got to get in front of their faces a lot of times. We'll say 10 times before someone on average is going to convert. That one direct mailer, you're going to have to send them a direct mailer probably every quarter for like 2 years before a bunch of them convert. Exceptions to this, if you have a cash pay thing, first 10 of them get 20% off. Yeah, if you got a good offer like that at MedSpa, it might work for you. That's an exception to the rule. If you're a pediatric clinic and there's a bunch of new moms in this like brand new community of like new development, yeah, that might work well for you. Okay, know your market. But the point that I'm trying to make is, as a whole, you're going to spend a lot of money on direct mailers. And I think I would look at other avenues of marketing, SEO, and engagement before I'd look at this one. All right, the next one might be a little bit controversial, but it is like networking groups. We'll put it that way. There's these like Chamber of Commerce meetings that you can go to. LinkedIn is another popular one. Unless you're raising like venture capital money and whatnot. I was consulting with one of you guys, a general surgeon, and y'all were talking to me about like, man, why do I constantly rely on the hospital for like 90% of my income? I can't get away from it. I was like, okay, where are you advertising? Okay, we do maybe 50% of our ads on Google, and the other 50%, where are you doing it? Oh, you're doing it on LinkedIn? Are patients really looking on LinkedIn to get their hernias repaired? Then, you came back at me and you were like, well, no. I'm trying to advertise to the consultants, maybe the primary cares, to let them know that I exist. And I was like, on LinkedIn? Dude, these primary care docs are not on LinkedIn unless they're looking for a new job. They're not on LinkedIn looking, who's the best surgeon that I could refer to for this hernia repair in my area? That was a waste of money, in my opinion. Same thing, these like Chamber of Commerce meetups, it's great for the SEO. You get the links, you can meet other like leaders in the community. Is it going to get you a lot of patients? No. It's something that if it's easy for you to do, it's cheap, fine, do it. Is it going to get you a lot of patients? Absolutely not. No. Now, exceptions to this is one time I went to a meeting where there was a bunch of psychiatrists there, independent psychiatrists, and they introduced themselves. Hey, this is my private practice. I didn't even know they existed. And this is part of the flaw, again, of like, why I'm not saying this should be in the top 4 that you're doing. This should be like the least 4 that you're doing. Is why didn't this guy just walk into my clinic and say, hey, Brad, I see that you own 5 primary care practices in town. I'm a psychiatrist nearby that sees everything and anything. Also, this guy is of Indian descent. One of my locations is in a very Indian-centric area. And I was like, why haven't you gone up to that area and met our primary care doc? And why didn't you meet up with him? Now, I'm not saying that him reaching out to me and networking through these events on LinkedIn was like wrong, but I'm saying, why didn't he just walk up to me in person? Why are you on LinkedIn trying to build this up? You could have just walked in the door, dude. And not only that, we could have gotten each other's phone numbers. It would have been more personal, more authentic. That should have been the way you go, not marketing on LinkedIn. Face-to-face is still, I think, always best. And you know what? This guy, I think he's doing really well now. We've been sending referrals to him now for like 2 or 3 years. Wonderful Indian psychiatrist in the area. I never even knew he existed for 4 or 5 years prior to this, even though he's been open now for like 10 years in this greater Austin area. Good for you, brother. I'm glad you're doing well, but like knock on some doors. Don't be advertising on LinkedIn about this kind of stuff. All right. And then the final one that I'll talk about, number 4, is there's a lot of websites out there for doctors that just want to take your money. For example, in my opinion, WebMD has been reaching out to me every month about how they have, it's almost like when you were a teen and it's like, there's tons of hot singles in your area that want to date you. There's tons of patients that are looking for you and looking for primary care in your area on WebMD. No, they're not. When's the last time you ever got a patient that said, you know what? I found this cardiology practice on WebMD. Everyone is raving about it on WebMD. No, they're not. Advertising on WebMD is a total waste of your money. Also, advertising on Yelp, holy crap, what a disaster. Every time I've advertised on Yelp, it has gotten us nothing but fake clicks, or no disrespect, but it's gotten us tons of Karens. Those individuals that come in that just want more. And it's just nonstop with those individuals. And it could be male Karens, not just females. But I have noticed that the Yelper is very much a taking kind of relationship. Like the patient that shows up from Yelp is very much like, I just want more. I want everything for me. And they only care about themselves. And they may be lovely people, and that's good for them. But I have never had a great experience from consulting with any of you guys or even paid ads on Yelp. Also, I know that they say that they don't hide your reviews, but one of my clinics has, I think, like 50 5-star reviews on Yelp that stopped showing up once we stopped paid ads. And now we only have like 2 5-star reviews. Get the hell out of here. All right. Who's a prolific Yelper? When I talk to Yelp, they're like, oh, we only show people that like do a ton of reviews on Yelp. Who is out there doing a ton of reviews on Yelp? For every probably like 1 to 300 like Google reviews, I get 1 Yelp review. Nobody's reviewing on Yelp. Only unhappy people, in my opinion, are on Yelp. I am very anti-Yelp if you haven't gotten that idea by now. Have a profile, get your SEO, get a couple of good reviews on Yelp. Nobody cares about Yelp anymore. Do not advertise on Yelp, in my opinion. The other negative one is I got suckered into it is there's a advertising group. There's a local community of newspapers here in town called Community Impact. They have hyper local stats on, a couple zip codes. And I fell into it. They're like, man, we'll put your branding advertising in this newspaper. And, we have a 90% open rate and, loyalty rate. People have been with us like X amount of years. And oh, by the way, we have their phone numbers and we have their emails. And for $3,000 on top of the advertising, we will send an email blast that your clinic is open and taking new patients and whatever. That $3,000 email and text blast got me 1 patient total. 1. Now, I get it that you have to spend money to make money. And, even advertising online, you never know how it's going to turn out. Holy crap. $3,000 for a hyper local, advertising. That was horrible. I should have spent that on Google ads. It was just an absolute waste of my time. Facebook and Google are king, or actually Meta, Instagram and Facebook and Google are king at this point in time. If they are not a big player, hell, I've even tried Nextdoor before. Nextdoor was a step above Yelp. It still never converted that many patients to us. I think because Nextdoor tends to be hyper authentic and people really hate ads on there. They want to know from their community, who do you recommend? I've not had any success with it. Reddit, I just started teasing some Reddit ads. We'll see if they turn out. So far, it looks probably a little bit above Yelp, but not great. Lots of low intent, lots of bots. But these are the 4 marketing channels that I would ignore in the very beginning, unless you meet one of those exceptions that I talked about. And I would lean into, go listen to my other podcast about the first 1,000 patients. I would lean into focusing on one of those avenues because that's going to get way more bang for your buck. So why do the big boys, why does Methodist Hospital in Houston, why do they advertise in all this crap? Because at a certain point, you completely saturate something. Like, for example, for me, searching for every primary care doc in every market that I'm at, I'm going to have to probably spend about $2,000 a day to saturate that. Well, if you're Methodist Hospital in Houston, who's a multi-billion-dollar company, $2,000 a day is like a rounding error, dude. At a certain point, you're going to max out your ad spend and there's no more patients that are searching for you on Google. So to reach other people, you got to start throwing money somewhere else. So I think the way I'm doing my business is max out the things that are working. I'm only 25% maxed out on Google. I still got another 75% to grow. I could 3x my spending, and still be fine and get more patients. Haven't even capped out Google at this point in time. So that's the way I'm leaning into it rather than starting with all these other non-traditional things and hiring a marketing person that's going to make a bunch of videos for me. I haven't capped out. I'm still getting $20 a patient off of Google for a patient acquisition. Why would I turn that down? Why would I spend tens of thousands on potential content creation and hiring a full-time marketing person when I could just turn the faucet on from Google? That's the advice I would give to myself. And those are the 4 avenues that I would just ignore if I was started. And honestly, I'm still ignoring the marketing one because at this point in time, I'm just going to crank up Google ads. Why wouldn't I? It's $20 per acquisition. All right, you guys, thank you so much for following along. I'll leave a link below if you want me to consult with you. I do consulting. I do mentorship. If you want any of those things, more information down below. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. See ya.